All right, let's go ahead and jump in. So my name's Evan Golden, and I am the lead solutions engineer and the product manager for the VisualScript for Jira and Confluence marketplace apps. So today's webinar, it's about enterprise service management, or ESM, and the reporting best practices with Jira Service Desk for business teams. Just a little bit of housekeeping. So we're going to answer all questions at the end. So please do enter any that you might have in the Q&A box. We are recording, and we'll send out a link to the recording after the webinar if you wish to share it with anyone else on your team. And a member of our customer success team will reach out to you after the webinar just to get some information for where to send your t-shirt. So what is ESM? ESM, it's more than just a shared service desk application. What we're doing is we're taking what we do best in ITSM, and then extending that across the business. This includes the processes, the ideas, and the best practices in addition to the service desk application. So we see HR departments and other business units now using IT tools and processes often. In fact, Jira Service Desk has an HR template and other templates so that they can provide the same tool for their customers as IT does. We're going to walk through a use case around the HR onboarding process. So management across many departments, they're not happy with the lack of visibility and communication around status in the HR onboarding process. All the metrics and reports live in a spreadsheet, and all status updates are presented in slides in a weekly meeting. There's a desire to incorporate more of a customer service approach. Now, this has been really successful in IT, and there's a liking across the company of the simplicity that comes with Jira Service Desk for submitting requests, seeing the status of those requests, and communicating with the support team. There is a need to see status of onboarding for both department managers and HR in real time. Onboarding is a process, and it touches much of the business from IT, HR, facilities, and finance. Collaboration and visibility are critical between those departments. So by building in IT processes and best practices along with Jira Service Desk, HR will likely see quite a few benefits. So we'll review some of those now. So ESM can lower cost. It can reduce the time needed to update static reporting documents and to provide a detailed translation of reports in status meetings. The organization might also be able to reduce costs by removing legacy systems, but not just by removing the software itself, but also the costs that involve the time and training the administrators and the users. So let's go back to our example. If our HR team is spending hours updating spreadsheets and slides weekly, this time can be saved by moving the onboarding process into Jira Service Desk. This can lower cost and allows them to work on requests submitted by their customers. ESM also provides more visibility. All the data lives in a system of record that is the source of truth. Managers can have a dashboard to see the status of their teammates' onboarding. There is a ticket that allows for not only status updates, but also communication back and forth between departments and HR. The HR team has access to a queue inside Jira Service Desk that includes employee onboarding requests so that they can work on them and communicate with the requester. Lastly, HR encourages collaboration now that silos are removed and all departments are communicating in the same tool. The onboarding ticket in Jira Service Desk can link to tickets for finance, facilities, and IT so that the employee's manager can see status and get answers to questions like, were accounts created in the necessary software platforms? Was direct deposit set up? Is the office set up along with their phones and internet, and so on? Also, proper reporting is critical now that all the data lives in the same tool, and it should be available in real time in some sort of dashboard. There are so many questions asked as we automate onboarding that require reporting. Where are the employees located? What type of employment are they, full-time, part-time, or contract? Who are their managers? What is their start date? But it is not just about answering questions like these individually. Instead, it is providing decision makers with all the data they need, working together so they can make those informed decisions. The reporting also has to be flexible so that it can offer different representations of the same data. For example, some teammates want a pie chart reporting on an individual metric like job title of our employees being onboarded. Some prefer linear gauges reporting on a number of employees being onboarded by office location. maybe a bar chart for some people to see a report on employment type, but also in context reports, like a grid visualizing data with shapes is an easy way to gather many different data metrics into a single report. Now, together in a single dashboard, the reports do more than just provide status. They provide what is needed to make informed decisions on investments, process changes, and more. It's really simply stated as those metrics plus that additional context will equal the ability to make those data-driven decisions. To do this, you will need a marketplace application and to work with Jira Service Desk for reporting, like VisualScript. So VisualScript is a reporting solution for the entire Atlassian stack, and it provides chart style and in-context reporting for development, IT, and business teams. It's a marketplace application. It's available for both Jira and Confluence and in both server and cloud. All the reports live in Jira Dashboard gadgets or Confluence page macros. It comes with many different built-ins that are used for standard reporting, like pie charts, stacked area charts, grids, and timelines. Additionally, there are built-in reports around different specific solutions, for, like the SLA report for ITSM and ESM. Lastly, it's a developer's tool. So for custom solutions, scripts can be created using JavaScript and the APIs in both cloud and server. So let's go ahead and get into the demo. So I'm gonna change my share to my dashboard. Okay, so I wanna start here in Jira Service Desk, and I wanna show you how that process works, basically from start to finish. And then we'll get into the reporting and how that is a huge benefit add for department managers as well as the service unit themselves. So what you're looking at here is a help center in Jira Service Desk. So this is in cloud, and basically it's a bunch of different Jira Service Desk projects for each department. So you'll see we have a project for IT, HR, facilities, legal, and marketing. The help center is great because now everyone in the organization for help from any one of these departments goes right here. They select a department that they want to put a request in through, and then they communicate through that request versus email, phone calls, etc. So I'm going to go into HR. Now, this is a built-in template with Jira Service Desk Cloud. You can select and create an HR department project, and you'll see it comes with 4 requests, again, out of the box: onboarding, offboarding, change request, and questions for HR for general questions. I'm going to focus on onboarding because that's what we covered in the slide, and we'll walk through that. So when you first launch a request, you're going to see a series of questions. And in Jira, these questions will translate the fields, and I'll show you what I mean by that. But basically, from the use case perspective, I'm the manager, and I'm raising the request to help HR get started for my employee to be onboarded. So the employee's name, I will do, Longbottom. And when is Neville going to start? We'll say he's going to start in August. Oh, actually, we'll say September 15th. And where is the employee located? We'll say London, England. Is employment type. So full-time, part-time, contract. I'm going to say he's part-time. And he is an R&D engineer. Okay. So who is Neville's manager? So I'm submitting the request as his manager, so I will select myself. And what software or hardware will Neville require? So we'll say Neville needs Zoom, he needs Jira, Trello, Confluence, and Slack. Okay, here I can also add attachments. So I could add, the offer letter. I can add anything else that's needed to be added so HR can get what they need. And then I send this request. So now this is the request form that I'm going to work off of as the manager. So you'll notice here I have all the information that I entered. I can hide the details if I want. I also have the status up here. So as HR is working through the process, I can see that as well. I can choose to have my email notifications on or off, and you'll see the request type here, and also who's it shared with, basically who's going to get the notification. So I can add someone if I want to there as well. I can also communicate with HR right through these comments. So basically I can type in a comment, which is a question: did you get my request? Okay, and I save that. Now, from an HR's perspective, now as a manager, again, I'm communicating through here. What HR is going to see is in their queue. So this is Jira Service Desk now. So in their queue, they're going to see it basically has a refresh interval that Neville Longbottom got added to the employee onboarding queue. Now I can customize this. I can add columns with different fields, however I want to do it. But basically, I'm looking at this as HR. I might be getting notifications in email. I might be getting notifications in Slack to say there's a new request. But from HR's perspective, they're working out of this ticket right here. So this is the Jira side. And there's quite a few things in here to look at. So we have all the information that Evan, myself, and entered as the manager, right? We have the ability to create subtasks. So if I want to break up work that HR is working on, I can do that here. As I create other tickets through facilities, through IT, I can link those tickets to HR. So now we have a collection of tickets so that everything that's associated with Neville's onboarding will show up there. I can assign this ticket. I can also add a due date. My request participants is Joshua because I added him when I shared the request. Also notice down here, I have the comment. So this was the comment that was submitted by me for did you get my request? I can communicate internally. So just Jira agents can see, or my HR team can see the notes on this ticket, or I can reply to the customer. So got it and working on it now. So I save that, and you'll see that I'm probably going to go ahead because I'm working on it. I'll change the status to in progress. And if I go back to my request and I refresh, you'll see that it gives that activity. So it shows the comment and it shows the status change here and here. And then I could show the details again. So this is how you communicate back and forth with your customers as HR. Now with Jira Service Desk, it also comes with other stuff, right? So you have reports. As an HR team, I can report off of created requests and stuff like that. The issue here with this is that they're reporting off of individual metrics. So, and they're not in a dashboard of any sort. They're back here as individual reports. I can create custom reports off of individual metrics as well, but you're going to get the same format in these line charts. So this is what you're going to get, and you can select different time intervals to look at those reports. But for anything beyond that, because if I go here, I can also see a bunch of information, but it's really hard to see, well, how many finance people are we onboarding right now? How many people in San Diego are we onboarding? How many people are we onboarding in the month of September? To do that, now I can add additional fields here, but this is going to be really tough to read and gather that information and really kind of figure it out to answer those questions. So for that, we can use a Jira Dashboard. And like I said earlier, with VisualScript for Jira, all of the reports live in Jira Dashboard gadgets. So I have a dashboard here created for human resources, and it's specifically focused around onboarding. So we care about displaying some onboarding reports. Now, with VisualScript, we have a series of standard reports, and these are different kinds of charts like pie charts, bar charts, area charts, etc. And they are also in context reports. And we talked about that in the slides as well, where we can provide additional data points all together in the same report to answer more questions. So the first one I'm going to show is a pie chart. And this is our pie chart in VisualScript. It's out of the box. And basically, once you launch that report, it's going to give you these parameters to enter. And it's very simple data entry to get this report ran. You just enter the project key. So this is my HR project. I have a list of fields here that I can choose from. Now remember, these standard reports can be used across all project types, all fields. So I'm using it specifically for HR, but there are other fields here that would apply elsewhere. If I don't see my field here, then I'm going to select custom, and I'm just going to type in job title. Now remember, Neville's job title was R&D engineer. So I type in job title, my issue type is onboarding. I want to do only unresolved issues. And the reason for that is because I only really care about the people that are actively being onboarded. I don't care about people that I've onboarded in the past. Now, if I'm a power user of some sort, or I know JQL, I can add additional JQL statements here as well. So I can further filter the data. But what you can see here is that with these first five parameters, you can basically run this report, and pretty much anyone can do that alone. So we run the report and it's going to show a pie chart, and each wedge is going to represent an individual job title. So you'll see the job titles on the right. Each one of my wedges is representing one of those by color. My R&D engineer is gray. And you'll see if I hover over it, I can see R&D engineer 1. So I know that's Neville, but if I want to dig into that data a little more, we also have access to an expanded view feature. So you click this and it's going to give you a grid with a list of all the job titles on the right, on the left. On the right, you have the list of the number of people being onboarded per job title and hyperlink to all. So if I go to R&D engineer, I can see that's my ticket for Neville. So that's one metric, right? And we talked about how individual metrics are great. So the next metric that we're gonna report off of is a bar chart off of the employment type. So we want to see how many people are full-time, part-time, or contract. It's the same exact data entry, with the exception of the change in the name of the field. So everything else is the same to run this report. HR project, we're selecting custom, employment type, onboarding, unresolved true. So this is going to give me 3 bars, and they're going to be for full-time, part-time, and contract. So you see the number of people that we are onboarding per employment type. So if I want to see this in, again, more detailed view, I have access to that expanded view in pretty much all of our reports. So I get that grid on the far left. On the left, I get the employment types. On the right, I get the number of issues with hyperlink. I think Neville was part-time. So we select there, and then you can see Neville right there. Now, I have additional reporting where I can kind of report on both of these things at the same time. So in our next release, which is coming out really soon, we have the option for a stacked bar chart. Now, for the data entry, it's pretty much the same, except I'm adding an additional field. All right, so I have a series field, and the series field is going to be the colors in the bars. So it's going to represent the job titles. The category field is going to be the employment type. So these are the bars themselves. And pretty much everything else is exactly the same. So running this report, it's going to give me 3 different bars. And you'll see the colors in each one is representing job titles, which you can see down here. And I can pan, zoom in and out as needed. And then what you'll see if I'm looking for R&D engineer, there it is gray, part-time. That's Neville up here because we just know he's an R&D engineer that we're onboarding. And again, if I want to see details of who those people are, expanded view, and I can navigate through here and say, okay, how many part-time people are R&D engineers? So right there, and that's our ticket for Neville. So a couple clicks gets you right to the ticket itself. So a few other individual metrics. We have a donut chart. So this is basically a pie chart with a hole in the middle. Same data entry as the pie chart and the bar chart. And I want to report off of the manager field. So I want to see how many people are being onboarded by manager. So I run this one and it's going to give me my donut chart. And you'll see every section is representing a manager. So I'm the orange manager. So I got 10 people I'm onboarding that I'm managing and 48%. Joshua's got 29%, 6 people being onboarded. And again, you get the expanded view for consistency across all the reports. And then for me, I'm managing Neville, so I can click on all my tickets that I care about. And you see I got all these people, including Neville. An additional single metric report is our gauge chart. So these are all standard reports. You can run these again off of any project in any field. So I'm running this one off the employee location. I want to see how many people we're onboarding by individual locations. So you'll see project key, again, employee location, unresolved true. And this is going to give me a series of linear gauges. And those linear gauges are going to represent an individual location. So you'll see Chicago, London, New York, and San Diego. You can see a little ticker here that shows the number of people being onboarded. I also get the number here as well. So it shows that 8 people are being onboarded in London. I click the expanded view. I get the more detailed information with hyperlinks. And then I can click on London and I would find Neville there. So those are some more individual metrics. Now, if I want to group those together, meaning I want to group together the managers and the location, I want to see how many people are being onboarded in each location broken up by manager. So I have a series field, it's the same exact parameters as our stack bar chart. I have a series field that I'm using manager, a category field that I'm using employee location. And this will give me 3 different sections in the report for full-time, part-time, and contract. Oh, excuse me, sorry about that. It gives me 4 different sections by employee location. And then each colored bar is gonna represent the individual manager with the number of people they're onboarding. So you'll see here, Joshua Platt's onboarding 5 people in San Diego, but he's also onboarding 1 person in New York. Evan is managing the onboarding of 2 people in San Diego and 4 people in London. And then I can get that information again with the expanded view, the 4 locations, the managers, and that intersect here. So if I click London, England for Evan, I'll have access to the ticket for Neville. Okay. So a few other now in context reports. So these are going to be, I showed you a bunch of chart style reports, right? We walk through chart style reports that can report off of a single metric or off of multiple different metrics. Now I'm going to show a couple of in context reports. The first one is a bubble timeline. So this is a standard report as well, but I'm going to be reporting off of a date field. So what I want to show on this report is the number of people by start date that are that we're onboarding. So by their start date completely. So basically we have the project key. We have the option to enter different date fields here. I'm going to select custom and type in start date. We'll see Neville started on 15 September and employee onboarding and unresolved true. So running this one, it's going to give me a timeline and there's going to be a bubble event for each one of the start dates themselves. So you'll see there's our timeline, there's our events that are representing the start dates. And then the number of issues hyperlinked are the number of people starting on that day. So if I click on this one over here, I know that is Neville. And I also have access to this expanded view, which will give me all of the start dates hyperlinked with the number of people that are starting that day. So if I want to add even additional context to this, I can use our block timeline. And this gives me an additional feature. So I'm still going to do it by start date, but I want to group it. I want to create swim lanes and group it by the manager field. So I'm going to run this report. It's going to give me basically a timeline broken down by managers with the number of employees starting on each start date. So you'll see now it creates the swim lanes by manager. The blocks here are representing start dates with the number of people hyperlinked in each that are starting. So I know Neville's out here because I'm starting him, I think, September 15th, and there he is right there. Now, finally, I showed you a bunch of different metrics. We talked about employee location, employment type, the manager, the job title, the start date. I can use an in-context report like a grid to actually display all of that information in the same report. And this is where VisualScript really provides just a tremendous amount of value, because what we're doing is we're able to show individual metrics, but also how you can run all that together with context. So project key, my horizontal field is going to be manager. My vertical field is going to be employment type. Now I can add these display values. So, and I'll show you what they do, but I'm going to add job title, employee location, and start date. And my issue type onboarding, I have the ability to show it by shapes or by issue count. So however I want to see it, and then true. So this is going to give me a grid. It's going to be a little zoomed out. I have a lot of people I'm onboarding, but I'll pan zoom in and I'll show you all of the detailed data. So you'll see if I zoom in a bit, for Anthony Fusco and a contractor, he is managing Rubius Hagrid. You can see his job title, employee location, and start date. For Evan, if I navigate to part-time, what we'll see here is Neville Longbottom. He's right there. So you get the summary, you get the job title, the employee location, and the start date. You can add additional fields here as needed, as additional context is needed. So think about how many questions we can answer with this report alone per person. What we get is the name of the person. That's 1 data point. The job title is 2. The employee's location is 3. The start date is 4. The status is 5. And we can't forget his employment type, as well as who is managing him. So that's 7 different data points in a single report. So we walked you through the onboarding dashboard. So this would be a good dashboard for HR to be able to answer all questions for the different department managers with regard to the people that they are onboarding. So that concludes the demo portion of the webinar. So I want to go back to the slide. There, should be able to see the slide now. So any questions? Do we have any questions right now?
We do. There's one came in early about how do you handle approvals? Kind of circling back to the initial help desk setup and how requests come in.
Yeah, I can answer that. So Jira Service Desk has built-in approvals. So you can actually build that function feature to your Jira Service Desk project, and you can do approvers, I think even by request type, or you just build it into your workflow. And then, but the problem with having stuff like that is then whoever, in order to see the data, you have to either configure people as collaborators or they have to be agents in your instance, which will cost additional money. So there's certain configuration to where if you have a Jira software with a bunch of users in it, you can actually configure it so that they could see the Jira Service Desk data, but they wouldn't be allowed to do the full approvals that way. But there is approval functionality built into the app itself. Any other questions? Is that it?
Looks like that was it for today.
Okay. Let's go back to my slide. So thanks again for joining and on all of your questions, of course. So we have a lot of other scripts that are built into the tool, or we have custom scripts that we created and we're happy to talk about them and share them. If you want, we could schedule some time. We could talk about your use case and talk about Jira Service Desk and maybe even how VisualScript might be able to help. We're also adding a ton more to the built-ins library. So we will be scheduling more webinars, so look out for those. And once again, a member from our customer success team will reach out to get more information for mailing you your t-shirt. Let me go here. There's my email address at the bottom there. If you want to reach out, if you have any questions about Jira Service Desk or VisualScript, feel free to reach out. And on behalf of all of us, I really want to thank you all for joining and have a great rest of your day.